How's it going? David here. Today is Friday, so that means Financial Fridays. And today I'm going to talk about the story of how I bought my first home at 23 years old and I was only making $13 an hour. And on top of that, the house was pretty expensive. It was $362,000, I think was the purchase price that we got it for. So here's how the story goes. It was in 2008. I was working for a doctor as like an office assistant manager type person, making 13 bucks an hour. Started out at 12. And I think at the time, minimum wage was about $8.50 or $9 an hour. So I was making slightly over minimum wage. And '08 happened and, the crash and all that kind of stuff. And houses were at like an all-time low. And I knew it would be a good time to get a house because I didn't think they were going to get any lower. And on average, I think around that time, all houses dropped around 33%, some a little more. And so I knew it was a good time to buy a house, but the problem was I didn't make very much money. So what I did is I came up with kind of like a business plan, like you would if you would go to a bank or something and get a loan, or you wanted an investor or something like that. And so I talked to my brother, he was in, and what we were going to do is, since we had construction experience, we were going to fix up the home, live in it for, I think we estimated around 5 years, and then sell it, take a nice little profit, and then move on to whatever else. But the problem is me and my brother couldn't qualify for enough, so we decided to get our friends involved. So in total, there was about 5 of us that all agreed to this business plan. And that's how we were able to get the loan. People actually on the loan was me and 2 of my friends were actually on the loan. And the other 2 friends were just kind of like unwritten contract that they were part of the house. So we all agreed, this is what we're going to do some construction, get a fixer-upper, flip it, make some money when the market turns around. So I'll show you some pictures of kind of like what the home looked like before. So this is the garage. One of the biggest things that we did was it was a 4-bedroom and it had a 3-car garage, and we transferred the garage, the 3rd-car garage, into a bedroom. So that was probably the biggest. So we got all this lumber, we framed it, all that kind of stuff. This was putting down the floor. There's the outside of the garage, what it looked like when we took out the garage door and put a window there. Here's the inside. There's the garage door still. We're flooring it. Then we put up all of the drywall, put in some electrical work and all sorts of stuff. And then this is pretty much what it was right before we finished painting it. But, we had the hardwood. We ended up putting hardwood flooring down here and, putting up walls and everything like that and kind of getting it all ready to go. We also did a lot more stuff, but this was the major thing that we did. Everything else was just simply cosmetics. There's some pictures on Redfin. I could show you. So this is the house. It's the outdoor. We re-roofed it. That was the first thing we did. But that, we actually, because it was foreclosed, so we bought it from the bank. And when we bought it, we said, hey, we need money for a new roof. So they paid us to have it re-roofed. So we did it, and then we pocketed the cash. So we re-roofed it. These are the original cabinets. We just put some poles on it and then painted them. There's like this little light thing that we fixed here. And then because the way you want to do it is you want to price it in with what's around you. So if you live in a neighborhood that's maybe not that expensive, you don't want to put in top of the line stuff. So these countertops were just tiles that we cut down and put on top. The pool, all we did was paint. We just painted the pool, about it. Here, we used to have the popcorn ceiling. And so the way you get rid of popcorn ceiling is you just wet it and then you shave it down. And there's some really nasty carpet in here. So we watered it, shaved it down, then rolled up the carpet, got rid of it, put in some hardwood flooring. It was pretty cheap hardwood flooring. It's like 99 cents a square foot, so it's nothing like major. Yeah. And then pretty much all the same, the upstairs and everything like that. But if you can see from Zillow, I got it in '08. I bought it from the bank. And 2 years prior to that, in '06, it sold for $550. So I knew, I was like, okay, it dropped by 35%. So I knew it was a good time to buy. So I bought it. I ended up selling it in 2015. So it was like 7 years later. It has since sold probably multiple times. The person we bought it from sold it 2 years later for almost 100,000 more. Should have held on to it. I couldn't at the time, though. I'll get into that in a second. But yeah, so I wanted to make it happen. And so I came up with a business proposal, proposed it to all my friends, got them involved. And everything was working great in the beginning. We were fixing stuff, all these things, but then things slowed to a complete halt. I mean, that's mostly on not just everyone else, but me as well. Like I said, I was 23 and I had a house, and it was a big house. And so me and my friends threw a lot of parties. And so we kind of stopped fixing it up once the major stuff was done, and then started throwing parties. And one of the guys that was my friends, he was older than us, and he was kind of out of the party phase. And so he got over it pretty quick. And so he bailed after 6 months. And so then my best friend moved down, and he took over his spot. And so I was like, okay, not that big of a deal. We ended up paying him out whatever he put in and all that kind of stuff. So it was all fine. And we continued that way, kind of like not working on projects as much anymore and just kind of living, because I think all of us were like, okay, we got the main stuff done. Now we just want to have fun because we're not going to sell it for a long, long time. And at the time it was still dropping. I think it was in '09, like towards the end of '09, it was still kind of dropping a little bit in price, like kind of staying the same. So we're like, okay, the market hasn't turned around yet at all. And then after about a year and a half after we first bought it, my brother and a couple other friends bailed. So then it was just me and my best friend. And I went to him, I was like, dude, what do you want to do? Because here's the thing that sucked. Everyone pretty much bailed, but I was the only one left that was actually on the loan. So I couldn't just up and leave. I couldn't just be like, oh, I'm moving to an apartment or something like that, because I have to make the payments. And so my friend's like, dude, let's just stay. We can figure it out. So we stayed. We rented out the rooms. Oh, man, the horror stories of renters that we had to deal with. Like we get some really good ones, and then we get some like terrible ones. And the thing was, it was 5 bedrooms. So we had to rent out 3 of the rooms. And there's people just coming and going. People always, I hated it. It was getting so stressful. And finally, I just had enough. I was like, dude, we need to get rid of this. And also, on top of that, one of the guys was on the loan originally, who left, was going to buy a house. And so he said, look, dude, this is on my credit. You have to get rid of it because I'm trying to buy a house of my own. And it says basically I own this house, even though I'm not living in it. So he kind of forced our hand, and we had to sell. So we hurried up and did what we could to get whatever we needed done, and made it pretty nice. There's some things I would do differently. We kind of got a bad real estate agent. The only reason I used him was because I used him to buy the house. But he was kind of bad now looking at hindsight. He just wanted the quick money, because the difference of him making the sale go from like say 430 to 450, he's not going to make much commission on that. So he just wanted it gone. And he wouldn't even show the house. I showed the house. He would just call me like, hey, some people are coming over, show him the house. I'm like, oh, okay. Like, he didn't have any open houses and all this kind of stuff, but we needed it gone fast. So we ended up getting rid of it in about a month. We paid out whoever we had to pay out and all that kind of stuff. But in the end, after we paid out real estate agents, other people that were involved in it that had some money still tied in it, everything like that, even though I didn't have to, but I wanted to. We ended up, me and my best friend, since everyone left and we're in it for like another 5 years, we ended up walking away with 30 grand each. So it was pretty nice. Like, if we would have held it another year or two, would have made a lot more. Another couple of years would have made a lot more. But that's just how it goes. And so, yeah, that was kind of like my big score in real estate. And it's that kind of thinking that you kind of do whatever it takes is how you inch ahead and slowly inch ahead. So now that I had an extra money, I was able to invest more money into other things. Later it came down as I ended up buying this house that I'm in right now by myself. I didn't have anyone else. So, and then I'm looking to actually rent this one out because I got it a while ago and houses have been going up like crazy. So I can rent this out for pretty much what my mortgage is. And then I'm going to buy another one, a little bit bigger. And it has a yard for my dogs. That's kind of like the most important thing. This one doesn't have a yard. It's a townhome. But yeah, so it's kind of the whole purpose of this story is just to show people that even if you don't make that much money or, your finances aren't that high, you can still find a way to, if your goal is to have a home and you think it's a good decision, which I did at the time in '08, I was like, this is a good decision, financial decision. Then there is a way. You can get people involved. You can get investors. I think there's like websites where you can actually get investors, and you just got to figure out a way, and like you can make it happen. It's going to be tough. It definitely wasn't easy, and especially when everyone left and I was just like, but those are the kind of things that are like character defining. When your back is against the wall, it's like, what do you do? It's like, I could have just thrown up my hands and it's like given up and then let it get foreclosed and then ruin my credit and just moved on with my life. But I stuck it out, and I had my friend with me, and it was tough because we didn't have very much money between us both to do the repairs that needed, and we had to get like crappy roommates all the time just to fill the rooms, because if we had like 1 month where we didn't have a roommate, like it would have sucked, because at the time I was just building my business, and yeah, it was a big ordeal and it sucked. And definitely some of the roommates that we had was, oh, I'm so glad that's over with. But you kind of have to go through the grind a little bit. But yeah, that's kind of like my first home purchase. It's crazy. It's been so long. I still remember it so vividly, doing all the stuff, and it's such a hassle. From then I went and I rented for a few years because I thought, stupidly, I was like, well, I think the market is going to soften. Never tried to time the market. And I remember I went and looked, I think it was 2017. I remember this vividly. I went to a home. It was like new builds. And I was like, yeah, I've been reading a lot of stuff that prices are going to go down, so I'm going to come back in like 6 months. And of course they didn't. And so then I was like, all right, I need to buy a house now. I'm not going to wait for this market to go down, because it's interesting. You listen to people that you think are like really smart, but they are smart, but they just don't know. You don't know. You can't control the market. So yeah, that's kind of like my first home experience. It was definitely a wild ride, but it's over with, and you got to make these hard sacrifices in order to get ahead. And I found a way to do it off like $13 an hour. I later got a raise to like 15 when I was living there, and left to do my own business. But it was definitely hard. But where there's will, there's a way. So I hope you like that kind of stuff. If you do, please think about subscribing. And if you are subscribed, thanks. All right. Have a good weekend.